it seems increasingly clear that opposition to cryptocurrency can be considered an official position of the International Monetary Fund or IMF. And we can expect anti-crypto restrictions to become a common condition of its loan to economies in crisis. So today, let's have a look at why IMF discourages the use of cryptocurrencies. Presented to you by Rapido News Network. So let's get started. Very recently, Argentina has agreed to discourage the use of cryptocurrency as a condition of a $45 billion loan from the IMF. Now, IMF is an organization which bails out countries that are in financial crisis. To those of our viewers who are new to our channel or have not watched our earlier videos, we have a detailed video in which we discuss the main function of IMF in less than 5 minutes. If you want to understand more about the IMF and the condition that it poses for its bailout, please watch that video. We'll put the link in the video description below. Now, Argentina has been in a dire economic crisis for years, with fallout including high inflation. The country also carries huge sovereign debt and has a history of default, making borrowing on conventional market even more difficult. The IMF did step up to help out the crippling economy of Argentina, but in return, along with its other condition, it asked the Argentinian government to discourage the use of cryptocurrency in its territory. Now, to understand what's going on here, you will have to understand the political history and true purpose of the IMF. The IMF was founded in 1944 in what the official narrative describes as an attempt to avoid repeating the competitive currency devaluation that contributed to the Great Depression of the 1930s. In reality, the IMF was founded less as a response to the Depression than as a preparation for the end of the Second World War and preparation of the Cold War with the Soviet Union. But to be politically correct, its stated reason was to reconstruct Europe in the aftermath of Second World War. And that reconstruction was not at all philanthropic, but a strategic pillar of the then emerging Cold War to purchase loyalty of small countries in return for the cash. 4 years after the founding of the IMF, the US Marshall Plan sent huge amounts of American capital to help Europe recover from the war, and equally important, to make sure that they recovered as a part of the Western liberal democratic order rather than in the orbit of the Soviet Union. In exchange for its fund, IMF member states have generally had to comply with variety of market reforms that connect them more deeply to the free market Western order. The collapse of the Soviet Union might seem to make the IMF less important, but much like the NATO itself, the IMF has continued to pursue its fight against an absent enemy. How does an anti-communist organization behave once communism has been defeated? Apparently, much like a cult member whose chosen prophecy fails, it doubles down. A 2014 study found that the number of conditions attached to the IMF loans had actually increased since the end of the Cold War. This context suggests why the IMF is so aggressively anti-crypto. Because at its highest level, the reason for its existence is not to boost developing economies or help the individuals who live within them, but rather to control the country's economy and influence its operations. In broad terms, to have power over the borrowing country's affairs. The IMF is not a neutral aid organization, but the economic arm of a vast power structure that frequently hides itself behind the language of uplift and reform. Crypto threatens that power structure. Even if the threat is somewhat distant for now, Mark Wiesbrot, writing at the Center for Economic and Policy Research, describes the IMF as a gatekeeper for creditor cartel of Western funders, also including the World Bank and the Inter-American Development Bank. But as El Salvador is attempting to demonstrate with its volcano bond that is bonds backed by crypto, it has been clear that cryptocurrency is not easy to gatekeep. It seems very plausible that smaller nations such as El Salvador will before long have access to a parallel crypto-based debt and financing market over which the Western order has only a minuscule influence. That market will certainly be small relative to our overall global banking system, but even a small financial escape could provide meaningful leverage for pushing back against the IMF and its power-driven agenda. The IMF's own actions suggest that they foresee this possibility and they are scared to death of it. Now, IMF does not want to risk creating a parallel financial system in which its own power is very limited. And that is why they will do everything in their power to discourage the use of cryptocurrency. We hope that our explanation of why IMF discourages crypto makes sense to you. If you like this video, hit like. We will be very soon posting a video of why the central bank hate cryptocurrencies. If you are interested in topics like these, consider subscribing. And to never miss an update whenever we post something new, hit that bell icon. If you have any opinions on this topic or any comments or any suggestions that you want us to know, please put that in the comment sections below. Thank you.